Hello and welcome to day 3 of the week of game plans. Today we'll be going over the Oleander mirror match. Now a lot of this of course is going to be about playing against the player, not the character, but knowing what to do against the character itself is also super important, so we're going to start there. So in neutral, obviously, Oleander's neutral is quite strong. Very close to the best in the game, although I think that title goes to Tianhua. And the reason is that she's got a lot of very powerful disjointed hitboxes and just overall strong options. So the first ones we're going to go over are the anti-airs. So Oleander's 6A, as you can see right here, is quite good. If we turn on the hitboxes, you can see that this thing pierces the heavens. It goes straight up to the top of the entire screen. I think we would need this Oleander to jump for us to even see what the actual top of the hitbox is, because the screen is too low of a ceiling to show us. It's very good. It moves her forward a little bit as well, which is nice for most anti-airs. Usually you'll be wanting to move a little bit forward beforehand to mitigate the power of like the grappler jump in, which is basically a jump in where if you push a button, your opponent will be able to hit you, but if you don't, then they're just going to whiff in front of your face. And the more you move forward, the smaller range your opponent has to be able to hit you, while also making it so that you're going to whiff if they don't hit a button. So 6A, very good. I mean, this thing is ridiculous. Then she's got her 2B, one of the best 2Bs in the game. I think there's maybe one or two others that really contest it, but can't cross this button up. As you can see, it's kind of like a mini Velvet 6A. It goes pretty far forward, it goes pretty far up, and it does extend her hurt box, unfortunately, but it's still quite powerful, beats a lot of air moves, can't be crossed up, very good. And then finally she has Jump A. This goes very far. It's like an air jab. It's just a nice check in the air to let your opponent know that you can, in fact, react with a jump A sometimes, depending upon where your opponent is. And it just lets them know, hey, I'm checking you in the air. I have a bunch of options. I don't have to stay grounded to deal with your pressure in the air. It's just a very powerful tool that she can use in a lot of situations and let your opponent know, hey, that isn't quite going to work. Also, she does have a decent air throw if she's got magic. So Oleander's air throw is okay because she does get a combo off of it if she's got some magic to burn. And since her throw combos are very good at getting her close to Fred, her throws are actually quite scary. So her anti-air game is very good. Next, she has a lot of disjointed normals. So a disjointed normal is a normal that doesn't really extend your hitbox very much, or your hurt box very much, the place where you can get hit, but it extends your hitbox quite a bit. So easiest example is 2A. As you can see, Oleander doesn't move at all, but she creates a hitbox in front of her. Similarly, Sweep doesn't change her hitbox or her hurt box at all. That's just going to be a thing that we just keep messing up. Hurt box does not move. Hitbox goes like a third of the screen. It's pretty good. This is a great move. And then in addition, she has quite a few other disjointed moves that have been changed a little bit. So many of them have been changed to be less disjointed now. So as you can see, her 5A pushes out a pretty significant hurt box, but it still doesn't go as far as the book. Same thing with her 5B and her 5C, and even the new 6B button. You can see that it moves out a little bit, but that book moves way further out than she does. It's still disjointed, even if it isn't as disjointed as her moves once were. All these moves are quite good in neutral and make it difficult for opponents to get in on her because she can check them from pretty significant distances without having to commit very hard. So that's quite good. In addition, Oleander has a very front-loaded dash, so that means that most of the movement frames for her dash happen at the beginning of the dash. You can kind of see that, and we've talked about this before, where she kind of lunges forward, and then the ending animation is just sort of her like replacing her hooves where she wants them. So there's not actually a lot of movement happening at the end of the dash. And what that allows you to do with front-loaded dashes, of course, is wave dash, like we have seen before. So she is able to close the distance quite quickly, and she can close the gap almost as quickly as some of the brawler and meleeer characters in this game. But she's more of an all-arounder. So while it takes a little bit more practice and a larger execution to do that than it does to just press forward twice with Arizona and watch her scream across the stage, Oleander does have access to some pretty good gap closing ability, and she can use that in conjunction with her anti-airs to move forward even further and make it even more difficult for the opponent to jump in a position where Oleander is at all threatened, and still be able to make it so that she can miss if she goes for an anti-air, because it's just going so far forward. You can see that from about this distance, yeah, right about there, we're actually hitting Oleander after we dash forward and then 6A because of the combined power of the fast startup dash and the forward momentum that we get from 6A. So that's quite good. Next, we're going to talk about air mobility. Oleander's air mobility is good, maybe slightly above average. She's got a double jump, which is quite nice. It allows her to move around. I think that Oleander's air mobility is better than any of the short hop super jump characters in the game, because she's got this. She's got the ability to teleport, so she can bounce around and then threaten positions that other characters cannot get to as quickly as she can. And she's also got the momentum stop of some of her special abilities. So if she jumps forward and then throws a fist, you'll see that she continues to move forward. But if she jumps forward and throws a fireball, she's going to stop moving forward and stay where she is. She's going to reel back a little bit even, which makes it so that she can change her trajectory in the air, and then that trajectory change can be double jumped out of for more trajectory change. So she's got quite a few options. You can see that her chapter trap also stops her momentum in the air and also can be double jump canceled out of. So she's got a lot of interesting movement options in the air. And then of course you can cancel either fireball or trap into teleports. So she's got all kinds of interesting small movement changes that she can do with her options that give her strong air mobility. And that allows her to make her jump-ins more threatening and powerful, as well as allowing her some interesting mix-up options that other characters don't have as easy access to. Unfortunately, without that, she misses out on certain other things, but we'll get to that when we hit pressure. The next thing she has, of course, is fireballs, so this allows her to play a game from full screen that a lot of characters don't get to. She can just throw fireballs. She can do TK fireballs, which is a tiger knee, which means that you are doing the motion before you hit jump, and then you're hitting jump, and then letting the motion go immediately afterwards, and it'll shoot out a fireball pretty much instantly when you leave the ground. And when she does that, she can teleport behind or in front of an opponent and 50-50 them from full screen. So she gets cool mix-ups from all the way across the screen. And when done properly, that fireball is going to be plus, even if they block it. So it's really difficult for your opponent to deal with that, because even if they block the 50-50 from full screen, they're still going to have to deal with your pressure. And due to some of the changes to just overall general mechanic changes in 2.0 to pre-block, you can't get away from Oleander's block string pressure as easily as you were once able to. So you kind of have to eat it now, which makes it a lot scarier than it used to be in the original game, from what I understand, despite the fact that I didn't really play much in the 1.0 era. Then, of course, the teleport that we've already talked about gives her good neutral. She's able to sneak away from things that other characters can't, or sneak in on things that other characters can't. Quite good. Next, we'll get to her pressure. So Oleander's got decent pressure. She's got 3 lows. So she's got her 2A, she's got her 2C, and she's got her 6B, and those can all string into each other in that order. So you can put them all in together, and when they are done from certain moves, they will catch people trying to up back, which means that you can't just up back her pressure like you used to be able to, because the pre-block frames don't allow you to do that anymore. And she's got some new moves that allow her to maintain a low presence much further into her string than she sometimes otherwise would be able to, which is quite nice. Then she's got only an unsafe overhead, unfortunately. Now, the standing overhead is a good starter. It will do good damage. It is a C starter, after all. It does C starter damage. But the only way to combo off of it is either with magic or a 2-frame link. So there's a little bit of a trade-off there if you want to get anything off of it. And, of course, if it is blocked, you are minus a lot, enough that your opponent can heavy punish you. And, again, another one of the big changes in this 2.0 version is that normals benefit from reversal timing, and what that means is you have a bigger buffer window to hit reversals off of a block. So when your opponent uses a move that's minus 16, if you want to hit it with a 15-frame move now, that's much easier to do. It's no longer a 2-frame link that you have to do at a perfect timing to be able to hit them. You can now do it with reversal timing, which means you can do it quite a bit before your character is actually out of blocks done, making it much easier. So very punishable, and as you can see, it's also got quite a hurt box to it. I think, yeah, we've got it set up to go. So one of the things that I like to show here is that if we backdash twice, you can see that we don't really threaten anything. Even one of our longest range moves, the sweep, doesn't even get close. Like, we can't even dash forward and then 6B. It's too far away. We threaten nothing from here. But if our opponent does an overhead, we can hit it from there. I don't know why, but we can. So, yeah, she moves forward a lot. And despite the fact that that move has a large hitbox, it's not a very disjointed hitbox, is it? So, that move is unsafe in a lot of different ways, can be punished even if your opponent air blocks it. Just have to be really careful. She doesn't have a great overhead while standing. She has teleport cross-up, which can be quite good, especially in the corner. If she can throw out a chapter trap, she can teleport behind it, and that speeds up the cross-up by a substantial margin, because instead of having to wait for the entire recovery of the teleport and then wait for X number of frames afterwards for the startup of a move, giving your opponent ample time to react to the teleport behind and block it, this one just happens the second that she trades places with you and shunts you out of the corner. The frame after that, you're getting hit. So you have to be very careful, because that speeds up her cross-up timing a substantial amount more. So you can threaten a very powerful cross-up if you've got 2 magic and are willing to spend some of it on the lockdown of keeping your opponent in the corner there. So just an extra option that you have access to if you want to for your pressure in the corner. It's quite good. Also, despite the fact that she doesn't have a lot of ways to get into the throw, she's going to have to do it pretty early into her string. Oleander's throws are incredibly scary because they give her magic and steal yours. So that just gets her closer to her best win condition, potentially the best win condition in the game, which is Fred. He is absolutely nuts, and once he's out, it's really tough to deal with, and we'll get to that in a minute as well. Then she's also quite good against push blocks and cross canters. Oleander can, without resources, teleport back. So she is capable of putting on a block string and then teleporting backwards and baiting cross canters. She's able to deal with push block pressure very well. A lot of her moves now move her forward, so her 5B will actually move her forward, her 5C will actually move her forward, her 6C will move her forward. So she's got a bunch of moves that sort of approach back in and have large hitboxes. So oftentimes your opponent can push block Oleander and not wind up getting into a position where Oleander stops hitting them, but get into a position where they can no longer punish Oleander if she starts doing unsafe stuff. So you have to be kind of a little bit more concerned about when you're push blocking against Oleander, because if you allow her to get into a position where a lot of her moves are now safe just because of the distance that they're at, she's able to pressure you from a position where you can't do anything back. And so the push block can put you into potentially a much worse situation where you're still in pressure because you no longer have, reversal jab out if the moves aren't quite perfect anymore, right? If there's a little bit too big of a gap in between and normal you could jab out, now the push block has made it so that the jab is not on the table anymore. So she's very good against push blocks. She moves forward a lot. She has big hitboxes. It's tough to push her out and make it so that you are the one who has advantage after push blocks. She's got pretty average defense. Oleander's backdash is it's okay. It's not great. I mean, you can see pretty easily that it's like an average backdash. The real power of it comes from the fact that you can backdash and then put out a big normal that she moves forward with again. So she's able to sort of invuln frame through stuff and then still threaten a big move, which can be a big deal. It's similar to like dash dancing in Smash Brothers, so I am particularly keen on its power because of that. It really feels like being able to dash dance in front of your opponent and just like be invincible for a second, backdash backwards, and then immediately run back in with a move. And not a lot of characters feel like they can do that the way that Oleander feels like she can do that. So that's all right. But yeah, her defense is pretty lackluster. You just kind of have to be able to hold back correctly and jump or tech when needed, because between a normal backdash and the fact that her only invincible move requires magic and is super slow, you can tell like this move has like 20 plus frames of startup, which is reactable. It's super minus, I think it's like -9 on block, so it's easily punishable on block, and it's one of the easiest moves in the game to safe jump or even just meaty with good enough timing that you recover. Like most jabs can recover if they're done meaty before Oleander's teleport goes off, I believe. So it's really tough for Oleander to use her 2-2D as a reversal because it's just going to get hit a lot. So most of the time she winds up blocking. She doesn't have any great get off me moves on defense, unfortunately. Then we're going to talk about her special Oleander only abilities. The first one is her ability to steal magic. So if we take away some of the magic and make it normal here, and let's do the meter as well just so that you can see what it does. Oh, we wanted it to be normal with 1. Let's try that. That did not work the way I wanted it to. Do I have to do that? All right. Okay, we have defeated training mode, and you can see here that that takes a lot of meter from your opponent. Just the epilogue itself is like what, 35%, probably like 35% of a bar, and a lot of her other moves are also similarly good at stealing magic. So she is able to remove magic from the opponent, potentially making it so that when they had a reversal super on Wake Up, now they don't. So potentially, you know, making it so that she's the only character in the game that doesn't have to deal with a reversal super in this situation. That's pretty good. Also, of course, every magic that she turns into meter gets her closer to Fred, and Fred is arguably the best win condition in the entire game, so anytime that she can use her magic to steal your meter, she's feeling pretty happy about it. Then, of course, Fred is unbelievably powerful. When this guy comes out, it is just Oleander's turn forever and ever. It's very difficult to deal with Fred being on the screen. He's got moves that hit you from pretty much any position, so even if you happen to be full screen away, he's got moves that are going to be able to catch you from there. If you're close up or playing in neutral, he's got moves that are going to hit you from there. If you're trying to jump, he's got moves that are going to hit you there. I mean, it's just, you cannot get away from this guy. And in addition, Oleander can do some like negative edge stuff. So if she's got her finger down on D, she can 2-2 release D, and it will teleport her, and it won't use a Fred button, because Fred doesn't pay attention to negative edge inputs, so she can teleport and then immediately use a Fred button to be safe, which means that she can teleport in on you, like almost any character except maybe Tianhua, pretty reasonably. She can teleport in on you with an invincible move, follow it up with Fred, be invincible, and now she's in. and then once she's in, she can cover all of her mix-ups with Fred. A lot of her combos with Fred allow her to gain meter in the middle of the combo while doing a lot of damage very quickly. So she's super spooky, and of course, she can throw out Fred moves even while in block stun. So pressuring Oleander is also quite difficult. If the Oleander is decent at blocking and you put any gaps into your pressure, Fred can just come out, hit you for free, and there's really nothing you can even do about it. You just can't leave gaps in your pressure while you're playing against her with Fred out, which of course leaves frame trapping and throwing and all kinds of things you would normally be able to do to mix her up off the table. So Fred is unbelievably good. He stays out for like over 20 seconds, somewhere in that range. He's just crazy good. And of course, you can just steal rounds from people, gain back some meter. You can't gain back the kind of meter that you used to be able to in the first version. I think Oleander would still gain back regular meter gain while Fred was out. And that was obviously insane, right? That was like Morrigan levels of craziness. And that's been fixed. But Fred is still absolutely nuts and kind of the goal of Oleander in general in order to win rounds and, of course, win games. So what are we going to do about it? Well, obviously, we've got the same characters. So we've got a character that's got good air mobility and a character that's got good anti-airs. So you can play that game on either side, and on either side there's some risk to it. But it's really going to be about whether or not you're better in these situations. So if you find that your opponent likes to jump and they're not good at baiting you, and you can just hit them each time, perfect. Go for that. Do it a lot. If you find that if you jump in place or like jump forward, jump back, your opponent throws out buttons and you can just like catch them with fireballs on the way back down or something, do that. It's free. If, like me, you know that your faraway fireball game isn't great. In fact, it's one of the reasons why I picked Oleander up, is because I wanted to learn how to play a better fireball game. Then you can run to the side here. Now, that's kind of an interesting thing for someone like me, because of course if you're playing in tournament, you don't want to be anywhere around here at all, right? You don't want to be even close to here because you know that you're bad at the fireball game, you're bad at the teleport game. You don't want to be the one in this position because you're just going to get teleported in on with a fireball. You're going to lose. They're going to just beat you in the fireball game and knock you against the wall with magic fireballs, go through your stuff. So you know, in tournament, I don't want to be here, but any other time, I want to learn how to be here and actually contest. And so, in practice and stuff, I would probably try to get into that position against Oleander a lot. But we don't want to do that when we're playing against an Oleander when we're trying to win. So what I would probably be doing is getting just enough magic that I could try to get in off of a single fireball or whatever the first time that I see that I've got a legitimate chance to get in, and that's what I would go for. On pressure, of course, we want to be the one pressuring, but we're happy to play neutral. This is a great area to play neutral in. Again, if you're really good here and this like throwing a fireball is really risky because you can just get jumped in on area, play the neutral game, right? Backdash into a big button, catch their button, win. So if your opponent is not as good in the neutral footsies game as you, then use that to your advantage. Now, on offense, Oleander's got some fun stuff. Obviously, she's got a fuzzy guard break that works very well, and if we make our opponent crouch here, I want to see something. So we'll just have Oleander crouch, and we'll just not block here. So you can see that unlike a lot of characters, Oleander's 5B, when it hits, forces your opponent to stand. Now this is important because unlike a lot of other characters we're going to talk about that have strong fuzzy guard break setups, Oleander's is the strongest. Because if your opponent blocks it, then they're forced into the fuzzy guard situation, just like every other character. But against most other characters who are going to have a fuzzy guard break that uses their short hop as the way that they can follow up afterwards, Oleander doesn't have the problem they do, which is if your opponent just blocks low and they get hit by the first attack and then you go for the fuzzy guard setup, you're just going to miss. You're just going to jump over their head, because a lot of those moves don't force the opponent to restand like Oleander's jump B does. So she's got like one of the best fuzzy guard setups, if not the best fuzzy guard setup in the entire game, because it works regardless of what they do. If they block, they have to block the whole thing. If they're push blocking there a lot, that's one of the most powerful tools you can have on offense, is knowing when your opponent is going to push block. You're just going to double jump, jump C, counter hit, jump C them for like 700 damage starters and just end them in like 2 hits. So it's very powerful even if they're trying to push block it. They can't duck it like some of the other characters can. Against like Arizona and Shanty, they can hit you with like their JBs and then do short hop JAJB, and it will fuzzy guard break you. So if you're trying to block high and then block low, the jump A will still hit you standing, but you'll be trying to block low, it'll hit you. But against Oleander, if you do that, but against Oleander, it like nothing matters, right? If you are crouching against the characters when they try to do that, they'll hit you with their jump B, and then they just whiff. It just goes over their heads, because the jump attacks that those characters have don't force you to restand even on hit. They keep you crouched on hit. So then you just hit them with one jump attack, you whiff an aerial, and then it's your opponent's turn because you tried to go for a fuzzy guard setup. So you have to be very careful against those characters. Just blocking low against the jump occasionally can work. Obviously, if they just go for the jump in, you're in trouble. But with Oleander, it doesn't matter whether or not she goes for the jump in, you're in trouble. So that's the power here, right? Is that since she can force a restand, which not a lot of characters do, her fuzzy guard setup is atrociously strong. And one of the best ways to be able to open people up that she has very consistently, just going for that or the jump into low, is the standard mix-up. And it's going to make your opponent want to push block. It's going to make them want to try to absolute guard. And once they're starting to do that, that's when you weave in the double jump fake out into the jump C, and you can just like erase their life bar if they're trying to push block you there. So she's got a very powerful pressure setup there. Obviously, she's got the ability to throw Fireball into Chapter Trap, which is actually faster recovering than just her regular Fireball. So it goes from like -2 to like, I don't know, it's like -1 or +0. It changes it by a couple of frames, but those couple of frames are all you need to make it so that your opponents don't have the ability to come back on you with a punish. And it can often make it so that if they try to, there's a Chapter Trap in their way and it'll hit them. So if you find that your opponent is not good at dealing with pressure, I would suggest doing a lot of fuzzy guard setups, go into an empty low, go into an empty throw, and just have fun going to town. If they're a little bit better than that, but they weren't great at neutral, I would suggest playing the stay under the timer game. Oleander does have a little bit of air mobility, but not enough to really get away from another Oleander. It's pretty tough to get over that, especially from this positioning, and you're just going to have a hard time getting out of the corner if this Oleander doesn't want you to. So that's another strong option. And then, of course, it's all about Fred, and what that means is that I think that in this matchup in particular, it's one of the most important matchups to prioritize meter. So if you've got extra magic on a combo, you should have routing that lets you do however many teleports you have, teleport Ds you have, to get a bunch of meter, and then do a ground bounce ender so that you get 2 more magic, so that you're immediately threatening even more. It's super important to just be able to convert everything you do into steal, because the more steal you do, the quicker you get to Fred, and the slower your opponent gets to Fred, and that can easily be the difference between the game. Like, if you are doing extra damage with your moves a whole lot, but not doing a whole lot of magic steal, so like, for example, Chapter Traps are a good example of that, where they do quite a bit of damage, but they don't steal very much meter in comparison to like the teleport, which steals a pretty substantial amount more for the same amount of magic. You could just lose because your opponent gets to Fred first if they happen to be stealing more of your magic first and getting a bunch of stuff that way. So I think that this is maybe the single most important matchup to consider meter as a big deal while fighting. You'd want to be trying to put teleports into your combos. You want to be hitting people with magic fireballs. You want to just be throwing meter steal into everything that you do. Throws are huge because you can steal a ton of meter from your opponent. And all of that while trying to figure out the best way to play the game and run it so that your opponent is just always in positions where you play better than they do. So just finding ways to, if you're better at ranged, finding ways in neutral to maybe like throw out a button and then teleport out, and now they've gotten hit and now you're in fireball range. Now they've got to deal with this thing, right? Maybe you're good at that, and so you want to play that game. You can steal magic from them, and when they do their read to try to deal with you, you're ready with the teleports, and they're just not dealing with that well today. You want to be from full screen? Try to figure out a way to be at full screen. If not, right? Try to figure out some way to do some stagger pressure, get in on them, beta push block, and just go to town, whatever. So you're just trying to figure out as quickly as you can what things your opponent is worse at, what things you're better at in this matchup. Pick those things and then take as much magic as you possibly, or as much meter as you possibly can with your magic. Get to Fred and win. And that's what we're going to be doing. So tomorrow we're going to be looking at the right side of the roster, starting with Arizona, and I hope to see you there.